Hello, and welcome back to the Mary Tyler Moore for a very special double-header crossover episode where we are going to be in both the Tyler Moore and the Tyler Moore East because we have a big development in the entire region going on right now. We are formalizing all parks abilities, all parks responsibilities, all park jurisdictions to two brand new unified parks boards. The Tyler Moore East will be getting a board of Parks and Recreation, which will be located in Martha's Point. And over here in the Tyler Moore, we are going to get a department of Parks and Rec for the bigger city jurisdictions. That's going to be located in Isabella. And we'll get to building out their headquarters to start out with, but we're going to have so many parks to build, and this is because spring is coming soon. We will soon be able to start planting the flowers and bushes that have been withered away under the snow for too long. Pretty soon, the flowers will be blooming everywhere, and you will see the Tyler Moore in full blossom. And now is the time to prepare for that, especially with the incoming onslaught of new citizens that are expected to arrive as Malalatin builds out. We'll not only be building regular old neighborhood parks, but also a wide swath of the river front along Isabella is going to be developed into the Isabella Riverwalk, full of many different riparian entertainments, as Hyacinth Bouquet would put it. But we will also be having Ferris wheels and festival plazas, as well as quiet little meditative corners and hiking trails. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Right now, we are just going to be building out the walls for the Riverwalk and the many different paths that we will have wrapping along. Today, we'll be building it one half, the first phase of it. Eventually, it will wrap all the way around Isabella. But right now, we'll just be doing the part along the river Isabella. New font as well. I found it much more appropriate for the opening titles. Hope you enjoyed as much as I do. And here we are now in the Tyler Moore East in Martha's Point, right beside Martha's Point City Hall. And this is our future Board of Parks and Recreation. I'm going to do it up with some props and some procedural objects, and I'm going to need your help because for some reason I ran into a quagmire that I can't figure out with all the Reddit forums out there. I cannot find my issue, so we'll get to that soon. But for now, I need to make a new sign. I'm pretty new at using procedural objects, but I have a pretty good grasp on the basics. I'm nowhere near advanced yet, though. So I'm going to start out with a sign that is already used as a sign and see if I can alter the font on it. And when I find out that I can't alter the font on it, I decide to do my own text fields. Now, I know can be a bit difficult to read the text that you type in without a nice background to cover up all the stuff underneath it. So we now have two different signs to cover up, both Miyagi Motors and the Camera de Comercio, the Chamber of Commerce. I figured it's a great type of building to use for a Board of Parks and Recreation because it's about the same size as a Chamber of Commerce. Not a huge institution, but still big enough to constitute a need for its own separate building away from the Tyler Moore East Administration building further up in the city. But out here, it's also strategically placed. It's beside the city center, the city hall of Martha's Point, but it's also going to be located on the edge of the main downtown park in Martha's Point. And we'll be getting to building out that park later on in this episode, but for now, we just need to get the building going. Somehow, this is my issue. The font is backwards, and I have no idea what I did. I searched the internet up and down, left, right, and center. I cannot find the cause or the solution to this. It's never happened to me before. I've made many signs in procedural objects. They have always come out the right way for me. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. This is where I need your help. For those of you who are very good with your procedural objects, Akuras and Gaseous Stranger and Red Kool-Aid and Cities by Diana, you all do such great things with your procedural objects. And if anyone could just drop me a line in the comments below, if you know how I can flip this sign around, please let me know so that the next time you see this building, we can correct it and have a much more official looking board of Parks and Recreation. We don't want to have to be walking through our city with a mirror in our hands in order to read all the signs around us. So hopefully we will get that resolved with your help. Please and thank you so very much. Now, the Board of Parks and Rec, we will get into the nitty-gritty of the staffing of it once springtime comes and we get into the full swing of business here. But for now, we just needed a good home for them to gather together and make their plans and store some of their tools and equipment, and all those people who make those decisions need a place to work. Now back in the Tyler Moor, we're going to be building the Department of Parks and Rec. Again, a bit different than the board because it's a much larger institution for a much larger area with a lot more people and a lot more to do. So therefore their parks are going to be much more complex as well. I've located this site in a problematic area of downtown because we've been having a lot of issues supplying our businesses with enough goods. So we have a lot of turnover here. So I'm just going to mow down a block of dilapidated buildings, and it uncovered this old tunnel that mysteriously appeared. I had no idea where it came from. Apparently it was left over from a past project. So I had to be very careful not to just blow it up and end up ruining one of my most important train lines underneath it. But we got that taken care of, and now I need to figure out what building to use because here we have quite some constraints in terms of lot size. The joys of building in a downtown core. So I cycle through many different buildings, with most of my concentration being on fit to the lot size. And from there, I'll decide on style and capability, but we just need to work within the constraints of the lot. I eventually settled on this one because it is a Polish building, which mirrors the hotel that is adjacent to it. The hotel tower there is from Warsaw. So it kind of mirrors nicely with a Polish motif throughout this square here, right across the street from the main house of worship. It's a non-denominational building of worship. And we need to fill in that corner, otherwise it just feels like the wind's going to be blowing through here. So I'm going to put this beautiful Times Square building from Rochester, New York. Rochester, not New York, Times Square. It's a different Times Square. And because it's across the street from the Parks Department, we have to spruce it up and make it into a nice little functional plaza. Some benches, some bike parking, and a few planters around a nice fountain. Now, just today, I found out on a Gaseous Stranger video that was published today that when you use Move It and you select a prop, a decal, or a tree, you can size it up or down by using the comma or the period keys. So thank you very much for that tip. I'm definitely going to be using it and thought it would be very useful to pass along. Gaseous Stranger's building a wonderful recreation of Rochester, New York right now, so it's pretty fitting that I put the Times Square building from Rochester there, where I need to be resizing my planter trees. Just going to name up this brand new Tyler Moore Department of Parks and Rec with a lovely neon sculpture in front of it. Wanted to locate it here specifically because of the plaza across the street from it. There is Arbor Plaza just a block away, as well as the Frisbee Lawn, which you'll see in a moment, one of the most important downtown parks areas in the region. It's a perfectly fitting place for the parks of recreation in such a high concentration of leisure space downtown. Now, along with these little parks in this area for respite for our downtown citizens in this congested part of Isabella Point, we are going to be building out the brand new Riverwalk of Isabella, and phase 1 will be starting shortly. It'll be along the Isabella River. The Sophia River is on the other side of Isabella, and that will be phase 2 when we go around the point and up along the Sophia River side of the city. Planting a nice, proud Tyler Moore flag out front, and I think they are all set to go here. Ready for operations. You can see the Frisbee Lawn here. It's a great place for picnics and, of course, for playing Frisbee. Wide open green space with lots of sun in a pretty dark, windy, commercial canyon of downtown. Now, right at the foot of the Frisbee Lawn is where we're going to start phase 1. It's going to begin at the rail tunnel just to the side here, and it will run the whole length of the city of Isabella all the way up to Methuselah Rock. Now, this is going to be a huge undertaking. It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of time. So today we're mostly just going to be building out the seawalls, as well as the paths, and this is going to be based on the Riverwalk in Windsor, Ontario. My hometown. It's a wonderful park along the river. It starts with a sculpture garden by the bridge, works its way through the downtown core where we have festivals in the summertime, and then it winds its way up to the Burt Weeks Memorial Fountain. Burt Weeks was a mayor who put into place a lot of the final puzzle pieces of the Riverfront Walk Park system. Further along the way is the Love and Peace Fountain, and we're going to be trying to emulate a lot of these features. Nothing too high profile, nothing too crazy, but a beautiful space where pedestrians and cyclists and skaters can come down to the waterfront, be a little bit more attached to the water and the environs around the riverside, so they're a bit more connected with nature, and don't feel quite so bound in by the river, being sort of like a prison keeping them away from the mountains and the countryside, but rather a beautiful destination for them to get to as well. And leveling things out here takes a lot of terraforming. It's a very soggy job. A lot of flooding goes through here, but that's only temporary. We're going to be putting a lovely pedestrian path underneath the quay wall here, so that in future there will be people walking along the quay wall. That'll be great for cinematics. And beside it, I then add yet another path, but one that is a shared bike and pedestrian path. And on the other side of that, I put yet one more pedestrian path. It's going to be a giant promenade the whole length of the area. It's taking a lot of back and forth in here because I'm realizing I'm going to be needing quite a bit of space. So I don't just need to line the riverfront with a quay wall. I actually need to build up some space here. So I'm filling it in And this is going to be future parkland. There will be closer to Isabella Point down here is going to be the festival area. I'm thinking amphitheaters and places for concerts, maybe a giant Ferris wheel, all kinds of things. Who knows? Maybe if you have some suggestions, something you would like to see along a river walk, drop it in the comments below and maybe we can involve it. Hopefully, we can involve a little bit of everything in here. So it'll be a fun leisure space for people of all ages and stages. We really want to emphasize that the Tyler Moor is a welcoming place for everybody. So we do need amenities for all types of people and all types of likes and dislikes and hobbies. It's going to be a magnificent place. Just filling in the final bit down here, and then I'm going to smooth it out before I really get on to the path work. I'm also going to have to finagle some of the bridges so that there will be enough space for people to walk underneath the bridges. As to this point, there has been no need for the bridges to be arched over. They're just flat and lay flat across the river without any arc at all, but that will change so that we have headspace for people to walk and bike underneath it. Now, this whole ordeal is only phase one. Took me a couple hours to do. I didn't get a chance to work beyond the paths and the key walls for this episode because it is going to be developed in little parcels all throughout. Just as most people develop their cities and neighborhoods, I'm going to be developing this in a bunch of different sectors. Certainly up in Methuselah, there are a lot of trees you've probably noticed. That is going to be where the nature walks are, some gravel paths through the beautiful trees. It's going to be more of an outdoorsy kind of space. Whereas down here is going to be more catering to the urban clientele. There's going to be a lot of, beautiful cobblestone plazas and fountains and food vendors and whatnot. This is also going to be an excellent way to get around the city by bike. You won't have to drive in traffic on your bicycle, even though we have protected bike lanes on a lot of our streets. This is going to be just an exquisite way to get downtown to work or to go uptown to Methuselah Rock to get to work. Just a lovely place to be walking along. Hours and hours the Sims can spend down here till their heart's content. Revealing this last path up here now so that I can have a full-fledged promenade. People walking on both sides of the bike lanes. I'm picturing lots of tree plantings along here and benches and all kinds of lovely things. Maybe even a balloon vendor. Now that it is no longer freezing, we can get that specialty balloon vendor from the Tyler Moor East that can sell balloons in freezing temperatures. We can put some of those out here as well. Just fluffing things up a bit and smoothing things out so that we don't have any major inclines, making it accessible for people with mobility devices. It's a very important part of our design here in the Tyler Moor. We want everybody to be able to participate in these beautiful spaces. A place can't be very welcoming if it's going to deny entry to certain types of people, so we're going to have a concerted effort to make sure that it is accessible on all entrances and exits. I've actually, here in Toronto, have seen many beaches being made accessible with some plastic ramps being put down through the sand out to the harder parts of the sand at the water's edge, so people in wheelchairs can actually go for a stroll down by the water's edge now, which I think is fantastic. And we're going to try to emulate that level of accessibility here along the Isabella Riverwalk. Thinking maybe even making some signs for it. Maybe a nice little logo, maybe some signs to put in the entry paths that say, you're now entering the Riverwalk, and here's a little map of the different districts along it. I really envision it becoming quite a thing, so stay tuned for more about the Isabella Riverwalk. You might as well just consider it another district in the city, much like Stanton or Milltown. It's going to be the bee's knees for local residents and tourists alike. Need a lot of different pathing to get to and fro, and I'm trying to connect the Riverwalk up to this pretty much white elephant of a cable car system that I long ago put along the area, thinking that it would be a beautiful scenic opportunity for people to travel along the river. But nobody ever uses it. People just ride their bikes on the bike lanes, or they take a bus or a train. Transit is so good, there's no need for the cable car, but hopefully the Riverwalk will provide enough leisure opportunities to give people a reason to hop on a cable car, travel along the Riverwalk a few hundred meters down to the next stop, and get off to go see another thingamadoo. And we'll have lots of thingamadoos down here. As you can see, we've built it out quite far now. There's a lot of space to go. It's really going to be quite a crown jewel in the city of Isabella. I know in Windsor, the riverfront parks are really one of the best parts of the city. A lot of people say quite exaggeratedly, it's the only thing worth living in the city for. And again, really trying to emulate that level of park here. Now for Martha Mitchell Park, back over in the Tyler Moore East, around our board of Parks and Rec, we're going to plant a Tyler Moore East flag out front just to make it official. In case you don't have a pocket mirror to read that backwards sign, please help! We're going to fill this out. The space behind City Hall here is going to be quite beautiful. We're going to separate it off from the highway, putting a nice fence in so no pedestrians can just meander into the highway bypass here. Very busy highway going between. It's a bypass that connects two different highways going around the city of Martha's Point. This is going to be a simple green space park. I'm going to fence it off just so that I can monitor how many people are coming and going with park gates. I don't normally do that for all of my parks, but for those parks that are going to be more significant in my neighborhoods, I prefer, when it's a big city park, when it's an amusement park, when it's a big nature reserve, I like people to use the gates going in and out so that I can keep track of how popular the parks are. Without the gates there, I have no idea how many people are coming and going, and if the park is loved and well used, or if nobody even bothers to bat an eyelash at it. But here now, setting up the perimeter fence, we're really shaping the park like eyebrows on a drag queen. We just make it look the way we feel it should look. And I don't want to have any corner ends paired off of the park just because of the fence colliding with that overpass. So I've rejigged it so we have maximum park space here. Going to lay out some lovely paths and line them with benches and drinking fountains and picnic tables. I'm going to put a few meandering paths throughout here as well, so that there's a mix of busy, bustling pedestrian parade and quiet, woodsy path with little tables in the trees where you can, the city hall workers and the parks department or the board of parks people can take their lunches out to this lovely park and have a nice day out in the sunshine instead of sitting in their office all the time. Going to give the kids a massive playground here because downtown Martha's Point is quite dense and does not have a great deal of play space for the kids outside of the schoolyard, which is on the other side of downtown over here. So definitely necessary to give the kids something to scream about, give them a place to play and burn off their energy and work on their gross motor development and just have fun. Lots of benches along here, which I'm going to decorate the benches with some little planters beside, which I rarely ever do. To me, a bench is a bench in a park, but for this being a city hall based park and more of a main park for the town, I'm going to do it up a bit. Put some ribbons in that girl's hair, make it look a little bit fancier, just to say this park is important. And that about does it for Martha Mitchell Park. I think we're about to head back on over to the Tyler Moor into Malalaton, where we're going to develop Wonderland Park out by the troublesome bus depot. Now, this space is a lovely green space, but it's in a place where not much can be done with it. I would like residential areas in this area, but here we have a rail line passing over it, a highway bordering it on one side, and a noisy bus station on the other. The bus station needs some work. I have a lot of issues with way too many empty buses coming and going. It's another one of those issues I can't seem to solve, even with a countless Reddit forum that I've been going through to see what do people say about the empty buses and how do you fix it? It's probably a mod issue. It's going to take a lot of work to get through that. But for the time being, that bus station is too busy and too noisy for housing in this block. So why not give the people who will live in the area a lovely green space to border between their homes and the noise and the pollution and the bustling busyness of all those people. It's also going to make a lovely place for travelers transferring on the bus or getting off the bus at their destination to have a nice little respite place where they can stretch their legs, they can have some lunch, they can take a picnic. Not a lot of amenities in this park, but it is going to be a beautiful green space. And I'm going to make sure it has so many trees that when spring comes and the leaves come out, you probably won't even be able to see what I've built here underneath it, because it will probably just be a dense canopy. I'm hoping, anyway, it'll be magnificent. The birds are going to love me. Doing a lot of pathing work today because I want people to be able to meander through the parks. It is important to get from point A to point B quickly and efficiently, but that's not what a park is meant to be. It's not meant to be a transit space. It's not meant to be an efficient space. It's meant to be a place where you can go to slow down, take some deep breaths, and reconnect with the reality of the world. When we're surrounded by concrete and glass and steel in a big city, or even in a fairly small town, but one that might be fairly well developed and built up with a town center, we tend to forget what's really out there. We tend to forget that we're standing on a planet that is spinning beneath our feet. We tend to forget that Earth is full of all kinds of living things, not just the animals we see scampering around, but all kinds of little microbes and little things that we cannot see, and only real geologists and scientists and researchers who study the soil know all of the many protozoa that live in there. But it is a living thing. It is full of life, and parks help us remember that by allowing us to breathe air that's a little bit cleaner and spend some time back in our natural environments. So right now I'm going to jump on the Crosslink streetcar. That's going to take me all the way down to the end of the line at Woodford Station, where I'll hop on a train to head on over to Pistoria. And in Pistoria, I'm going to meet you there for part 2 of this wonderful crossover Parks Department episode. We're going to be developing parks in Pistoria and Delta Junction. but also in the smaller country towns as well. Cedar Bend is going to get a great park. Finally, there will be something other than just hanging around the train station platform in that little town. So I will meet you over there. Until then, thank you so much for joining me again. This really is a privilege and a pleasure to be making these videos and sharing them with you. Thank you so much for coming back time and time again to watch them. It means so much to me. So you enjoy a bit of this streetcar ride, and I will meet you over in the Tyler Moor East shortly. Thank you so much for joining me and watching. I hope you like and comment and subscribe if you feel like it. It really does help the videos reach more people. It doesn't really help me. It'll help other people who want to see this. Now, this is currently the downtown core that's going to take a lot of reworking soon, but we'll get to that later. Right now, we need to solve the immigration issue. More housing for more people so that we can make the products and bring this commercial core back to life. The parks are also going to help with that revitalization as well. Thank you so much for joining me. Stay tuned. Very shortly there will be more here in the very merry Tyler Moor. Thank you. Bye-bye.